Hello, and welcome to the River Cruising Masterclass. First of all, I just want to apologize in advance because I have just been missing for the last 4 weeks. And I will tell you, I have missed you all. I wasn't expecting that I was going to be gone this long, but life was lifing. I was headed out to, I've had a September is my biggest month for people who are traveling and making sure that they got everything ready. I decided to travel as well because I said, why not make my life super stressful? And it's just been so much fun. And I planned on recording before I left so that I would have an episode every week because I just want to let you know how much I appreciate when you guys listen, reach out to me, ask me questions about your trips. It makes me so happy. And then when I got back, I did a 2-week trip to France on the Rhone River and I went on Riverside and I was super excited to tell you about that. But again, we're doing alphabetical order for a reason. I have taken extensive notes and I am ready to provide that. But if you were looking just for some quick photos, videos, I have them on my Facebook as well as our Facebook group, which is Cruising Better Tips and Tricks for River Expedition and Small Boats with Sydney. You can definitely check that out. But anyways, I digress. So today, if you are looking at the video, you can see that we are going to be talking about American cruise lines. A little different. We're going to step outside of Europe and move to America. This is one of the only cruise lines that just do American-based cruises. We're going to do a deeper dive onto American Cruise Lines. It's one of the leading U.S. river cruise and small ship cruises. If you are a curious traveler and you're one of those first-time cruisers, but you don't want to leave the United States, I'm going to walk through these 15 essential questions about American cruise lines. We're going to cover what makes this cruise line unique, the onboard vibe, the food, the destinations, and any latest updates. So welcome aboard American Cruise Lines, and I hope you get everything you want from this journey. So, the first question is, what makes American Cruise Lines unique? And it's pretty obvious. It stands for All American, and it is that in every sense. It is the only cruise line that is American owned and operated with 100% American crews, ships that are built in the United States, sail exclusive U.S. itineraries. And that means when you're cruising with American Cruise Lines, every port is domestic. You won't need a passport for these voyages. And it is very much focused on that. The dress code is, or the not the dress code, but like what the staff are wearing is very much, early 40s, 50s. It's very old school in that thing of it. And it has a hometown service. It's very much focused on the U.S. history and that culture woven into each trip. Another big selling point is going to be the small ship cruising philosophy. Their motto is small ship cruising done perfectly. It is intimate, it is personalized, it is on comfortable ships with an average of less than 200 people. It's going to be cozy and attentive, and there's not going to be large mega ocean liners. It has the largest fleet of U.S. small ships, which is over 20 vessels sailing in 35 states. That is a point I want you to focus on. They don't just do the Mississippi. There are so many unique excursions and cruise itineraries that they do, but it is a different feeling, and we're going to get into that. So, personalized service and inclusivity is part of the ACL brand. It's an all-inclusive vacation. You are going to get all of your meals, your beverages, Wi-Fi, gratuities, and at least one excursion in every port covered. And they even include a pre-cruise hotel night and transfers that are included in your fare. So they're really trying to focus on making sure that you have no extras that are included in it. They're not going to nickel and dime you on board. There's no casinos, specialty restaurants, no surprise add-ons. Everything is taken care of when you are on this. Lastly, American Cruise Line focuses heavily on American heritage and scenery, and that in itself is one of those unique things. It's going to design a showcase surrounded by the heart of the USA. It has rich history, natural beauty, and each trip is going to do a new slice of America that you might not thought about when it comes to sailing. You can do an Alaskan glacier. You can do New England lobster bakes. You can even do like the swamps of Florida. They have American Cruise Lines lets you discover the United States in a way that very few can, which is a mix of luxury and local charm with a proud American twist. So this is kind of those high level things of what makes American Cruise Lines unique. And let's talk about who would appreciate this cruise the most. So the ideal audience for American Cruise Lines is going to be older. It is a very mature client. They're well traveled. You are going to be very much focused on a relaxed but enriching trip. It is going to be very much focused on people who don't want to travel internationally because of the long flights, but still want to unpack once and not have to worry about anything. One of my clients basically had a, you know, their I can speak. I One of my clients he was 74 and he felt younger compared to everyone else on the Mississippi cruise. So many of the cruisers are going to be in their 70s and 80s, couples, solos. You're going to be very much focused on that clientele. So it is a great trip, but also understand that the aging skews a lot higher than on a European river cruise. But what's nice is that American Cruise Lines handles a lot of those problems with ease. So if you have accessibility issues, if you are worried about going on a trip because you have mobility problems, they're very equipped to handle all of those, not only on the ship, but on the excursions. So just be aware of that. And they have elevators on board and things of that nature. So it is going to be a lot more accessible than the European counterparts. So the atmosphere on board is going to be very friendly, low key, geared towards people who love history, culture, and scenery. Like over the nightlife, there's going to be no formal dress codes. It's very much someone who enjoys like a Mark Twain lecture on the Civil War battlefield before you go and visit Gettysburg. So I don't know if I would recommend this for first-time cruisers unless it was something that you were really interested in. If you were a huge history buff and you wanted to go through a certain area and this is the best way to do it, I might recommend it, but I think this is for more of an experienced cruiser who might understand what cruise ships look like, how this is different, and how it kind of plays out that way. As it is, it's like it's popular around those who have done a European river cruises or luxury ocean cruises and now want to see their country in more depth without having to be on a bus the whole time, every day, changing your hotels all the time. Okay, yes. So this is not a good fit for someone who is a very active traveler. If you are a younger adult and you're looking for nightlife or high energy activities, American Cruise Lines is going to be too sedate. There's no children's programs, there's no flashy attractions. It's going to be very much focused on seniors, history enthusiasts, or anyone who wants a peaceful, culturally rich travel experience without leaving the United States. This is who this program is perfect for. And so, what is that onboard atmosphere like, right? We kind of talked about already. It's warm, it's relaxed, it's very much focused on, I guess the best description would be friendly, upscale country inn, just one that floats on the water. Just like you would say for a river cruise in Europe, it was a boutique hotel. This is going to be a country inn because they are focused and digging into the theme that this is the American Midwest to South. It's very Southern charm and things of that nature. So when you think about that, that is what you're going to see as we've talked about, there's only 100 to 180 guests on most sailings. And so you are going to have a very family-like feel to cruises, and the staff will know your name by day 2 or 3. The social scene is very low key. It's going to be focused on the historical talks that you have on board, learning about the history and what you're seeing. They do have a daily cocktail hour where you can share stories about what's happening tomorrow, what you learned today. And it's very much focused on that sort of stuff. Now, if you are a solo traveler and you are wanting to do a US tour, I would definitely recommend this because they're very much focused on integrating everyone into it so you can meet a bunch of new people and enjoy learning about their history as well as the history of the United States. But as we've talked about, the pace is going to be very relaxed, unrushed. There's no need for those formal attires. Most entertainment is going to end at 9 p.m. So, if you are a night owl, you will probably feel a little underwhelmed by what you have, but you do have a full day of sightseeing, so an early bedtime is not an awful thing. I personally go to bed at 9:30, 10. I say that as I am recording this at 11 p.m., but sometimes life doesn't happen the way you want it to. I had a meeting tonight with Rocky Mountaineer, and so I promised myself I would finish this podcast before I went to bed tonight. I digress. I apologize. So another hallmark of the vibe of American Cruise Lines is going to be enrichment and regional flair. So they're going to do really unique activities that are based on the location you're going to. So if you're doing the Mississippi, you're going to have those jazz nights. They also have a lobster bake or a seafood broil. If you're doing they have is one of those cruises that I actually think is a really cool one that they offer, is they do all the cods. So you can go out of Boston and you do Cape Cod, you do all the other little towns or little islands, beach towns. What is Martha Stewart's or the private island over there? Anyways, Martha's Vineyards. It goes there. So that's an interesting one. And that's one of those things that you do on that trip. Now, in terms of the ships and accommodations, they are rapidly modernizing and expanding their fleet, which is great. My parents did an American cruise 15 years ago, but they were also in their 50s. And the only cruise they had done before that was Carnival. And it was a huge change. I wasn't a travel agent at the time, so I couldn't warn them about what to expect from river cruise when you've gone from mass market cruises to a river cruise. But they are modernizing and making their fleet a lot more, up to date, a lot more of those little personal touches. A modern riverboat. We have a classic paddle wheeler. They also have their coastal ship, which is what I was talking about, that does the cods. But they're very much focused on making it a little bit more sleek, clean lines and things of that nature. One thing that a lot of my clients have said about American Cruise Lines, though, is how spacious the rooms are. American Cruise Lines actually has some of the largest in the industry, ranging from 250 square feet to up to 600 square feet. In terms of that, if you compare it, most European river cruises for a French balcony is going to be 120 for Viking, and then on average, 150 square feet. So they've got an extra 100 square feet in their rooms, and that's just starting out with those basics. So it's a spacious, casual, elegant flair, and it has a lot of extra room for you if that is something that you like. It does have the floor-to-ceiling sliding glass doors, and everything is going to be very large for a cruise, which is something that I do love. So, yes, basically, most of the American Cruise Line ships are going to have 5 to 6 decks on them, which is why you have the elevators. And they're going to have a lot of airy, bright lounges with panoramic windows. They have their dining room, open seating. However, there's no swimming pool. And I will tell you, their competitor on the Mississippi has an infinity pool that is amazing. So, just something to think about. Like, we're not comparing here. Anyways, okay. They do have a putting green on some of their coastal ships, and they do have self-service laundry. So that is nice. They have a library room, and they have a chart room for puzzles and board games. And like on our river cruises in Europe, they do have their main lounge, often called the River Lounge. So now, when we're talking about the dining experience, what is dining like on American cruise lines? It is regional and it is convenient. So basically, they're going to be focused on giving you a taste of the locals on the areas that you're visiting. It's open seating, it's very easy. All of your meals are included. They're gonna do the same thing that you're gonna see on almost all of your river cruises, which is 2 or 3 items that are local to the area, 2 or 3 items that change all the time, and then on the back end, it's going to have 2 or 3 items that stay consistent the whole time for those that are basic like myself who like a ribeye steak every night, like I did on my last cruise. I did have something different 2 nights out of 7, so no judgment. It is American-inspired menus with regional chefs. It is locally sourced ingredients, and they are gonna bring fresh produce produce and specialty items from the towns you visit, which is one of those fun things. So, you're gonna be able to get a Cajun or Creole flair when you're in Louisiana, a slice of Mississippi mud pie. If you're doing the Pacific Northwest, salmon, fresh coastal seafood, farm to table vegetables like asparagus and mushrooms, very much focused on that local thing. As we talked about in New England, doing a lobster boil, a crab boil, and all of those other fun things. One of my past guests really focused on the fact that the food was locally sourced, and it has all received good reviews so far based on who's gone. Now, there isn't a lot of buffet cruising. It is all plated restaurant service, so you don't have to worry about that. And then, all right. So onboard entertainment and activities. So you might be wondering, what are you actually going to do on the ship? As I have told you with river cruising, you don't have as much on board as you do that you're going to locations that you want to see. I make the argument with the ultra mega cruise ships that we have now is that they have become the destination. Whereas with smaller ships, your expedition, your river, your small ship cruising, your destination is the destination. The ships are a means to get there, and a lot of them have great things on them, but they're not going to keep you as entertained or as flashy. Oh my God, there's a million things I have to see in 5 days as some of those ultra mega cruise lines. So they're going to do American Cruise Lines is going to do a lot of edutainment. So basically, education, entertainment, classic fun. It's going to be a lot of enrichment lectures and experts on board, really much focused on like historians, naturalists, regional experts, maybe a river historian. They do have an Alaska expert if you do an Alaskan cruise with them. So that's a great thing. I will say that they also are allowed to go into Glacier Bay, which there's only 12 or so river cruise companies that can go, or not river cruise lines in general that can go into Glacier Bay because they've been given that permit. That's the word I'm looking for. Now, they will have some intimate performances by musicians and local entertainers. So they do have some of that some nights. It's not going to be crazy. It's not going to be a party, but you can do that. So just to provide an example of what that looks like, it could be a local jazz or blues museum if you're in New Orleans, a Mark Twain impersonator in Missouri, and maybe some folk dancers or storytellers in Alaska. So those are just some ideas of some of those things that are offered, and it might be something that you are interested in. And so daytime activities is besides the enrichment and lectures, American Cruise Lines also has some classic cruise activities that they add if there's some free time. Beanbag baseball has been very popular on their stuff. You also have, bingo and they do cooking demonstrations as well. They do have tours of the bridge on sailing days, which I always enjoy learning about. And in Alaska, you can just do scenic cruising where everyone is on deck looking for whales and eagles. But again, as I've talked about, there isn't any giant amenities or any crazy evening activities. You are very much going on this cruise for the locations, not the cruise ship itself, because you're going to be in port all day. You're going to be in these cities. You're going to be exploring. You don't need it. But anyways, I digress. One of the things now we're going to be talking about inclusions and onboard amenities. One of the things that I do love about American Cruise Lines is the all-inclusive nature of them, even down to a pre-cruise hotel night and transfer. I always tell you to fly in the day before a cruise. I literally just had a client during September whose flight got canceled, and if they did not go a day early, they would have missed their cruise through Spain. It's an amazing cruise with Azamara, but we have that in place because Mother Nature knows no bounds. Everything can happen. You never know what is going to happen, and flying just sucks these days. But it's life. You got to do things that you don't want to do to get to the thing that you want to do. And I want to travel, and I have to deal with flying, and we all do. But I'm here as the travel professional to be able to support you. Like my clients who had their flight canceled, I was able to call and get a better flight than what was being offered to them because I did the research to find the best flight that could work for all 6 of them and the destinations that they were going to because they were all starting at different locations. But that pre-hotel night and transfer being included in the fare is just really nice. And it makes it easy so that you can relax and get comfortable where you are before hitting on to your cruise. Excuse me. It includes all of your meals and snacks, your beverages, the shore excursions. As we said, at least one shore excursion in each port, complimentary. But there also are some premium excursions. So very much like Viking, where you get one in each location, and then you can upgrade to a premium if you would like. Internet is included. It is Starlink, so you have good stuff there. You have all of the enrichment talks, your housekeeping, and your gratuities and port charges are all included in the cost. So once you pay for your cruise cost on this one, there's very little that is not included. And so that is something that we're really excited about. Okay, so as we've talked about, the destinations that American Cruise Line goes to is not just the Mississippi. And I think that surprises a lot of people because that's the only thing they think about when they think of United States river cruising. See, the first thing I thought of. I had to do research. I'll be honest, that's life, right? They have a lot of diverse itineraries and regional experiences. So I talked about at the beginning, I love the cods. I'm just calling it the cods. I would love to do the cods. That's what I would do as a fall foliage cruise. I feel like that'd be beautiful. They do, the Mississippi, there's both the lower and the upper, so all the way up to Minnesota. And you can do the Columbia and the Snake River, so that's the Pacific Northwest. And that's going to do the path of Lewis and Clark through Oregon and Washington. I have heard amazing things about the Columbia River Gorge. It is not something that is high on my to-do list right now, but it is on my to-do list to go experience that. Now, they do have Alaska, and it's going to be like a 12 to 14-day itinerary. You can start in Juneau, and you'll do the Glacier Bay, Tracy Arm Fjords, and things of that nature. Then, as I talked about, you have the New England coast and islands. But just for the Alaska part, they only have 150 people on board. So you're able to experience smaller towns, navigate closer to scenery. So if you are looking to do a different Alaska than what you see with the mega ships, you might want to do American Cruise Lines for that. The Alaska ship does skew slightly younger, but it's still going to be on the older side for just like general age and the type of excursions that you can do. But that might be interesting to you. Another one that is a smaller boat that does Alaska. I'm gonna make you wait. but it's Windstar. It's 250 people. There's a couple of others. I just did a whole article on Alaska. I can link up to this, but I might make it a podcast episode just because Alaska is so hot, right? You know, that's a Zoolander reference. Anyways, okay. And then they do the New England coast and islands, right? So they have coastal Maine, they have the Massachusetts, the Boston province, Martha's Vineyards, Nantucket, Rhode Island, New Hampshire. And in the fall, they do the Hudson River. So they do the New York, they do the New England islands. I feel like this would be a really interesting area to do this in. That is my number one trip that I want to do on American Cruise Lines is the New England coast and islands. Which one would you want to do? And then they also do the Southwest, right? The Southeast. So this is going to be Chesapeake Bay, your intercoastal waterways in Florida. That would be a lot of alligators. The Georgia Golden Isles, Savannah, Charleston, Florida rivers like St. John. They also have something called the Great Rivers of Florida. So these trips are going to delve into the Revolutionary and Civil Wars, Southern plantation culture. It's going to do horse-drawn carriages and wildlife refuges. They do the Great Lakes and Upper Midwest. So another Viking does the Great Lakes as well, but they have their new coastal catamarans, and that's going to be able to do Lake Michigan, Huron, and Superior. So that might be an interesting one for people to do. It also includes Mackinac Island, which I have a client who is obsessed with Mackinac Island, and he has gone like 3 times. We did the entire Great Lakes. You can do all 5 with one of the other cruise lines. And then we did a 2-week trip through Michigan, which is absolutely gorgeous. We did a week in Mackinac Island and then went down to Traverse City and things of that nature. And then the Pacific Northwest, which is going to be the Puget Sound and San Juan Islands. So these are some of the areas that they go through. And I'm sure you are just as shocked as I am with how many options they have. I would love to know. You can message me on Instagram, on Facebook, through the Facebook group, on which cruise you would want to do on American Cruise Lines. If you're listening, I'd love to know. You can also comment on this episode. I would love to, I'd be interested to see what part of the United States you haven't seen yet that you would love to see. Okay, so we've gone through where they go. Now, this is where it's going to get interesting. Value for money is the next question, right? I told you we're asking all the same questions about all the different cruise lines. American Cruise Lines is more expensive than you'd think. You're thinking it's local, I don't have to worry about it, but you're paying for everything being American made, right? So a typical 7-night American cruise line runs from $3,500 to $5,500 per person, depending on the region and the season. This is just high-level math, right? So basically, as we've talked about, it's all-inclusive, right? So that's going to include your drinks, excursions, gratuities, the hotel night before, and transfers. You are going to be paying for an American members on board the ship. So, like, all of the staff is going to have to follow the American labor laws. All of the ships are registered in the United States, so they have to pay for all of those additional fees and taxes, whereas most cruise ships that are mega cruise lines are not registered in the United States, which means that all of them have to stop at a international port before coming back to the United States, so they don't have to pay taxes on it. So you are going to have to worry about that. You don't have to pay for anything when you get on board. As I said before, it's an American flagged and crewed, which means that they are paying the U.S. wages and they have to comply with strict regulations on how how the employees are working. And so the cost per person is basically similar to what you'd pay for like a Seabourn or a Silver Seas. And that is something they're okay with because it is an American made and it is an American run experience. There are a lot of promotions and discounts going on right now that you could possibly get into, but you are also paying for a small ship premium with most of the time 100 to 180 people on board all of these ships. And that is much bigger than a European river cruise 4 to 5 stories big. There's a lot of extra room. The rooms are almost double the size of those in Europe. So you're paying for that extra space. You are going to have a very unique experience on board. It is very much focused on cruising those US rivers that you might not have heard about before. But a value is that you don't have to fly overseas. There's no currency exchange. And what you're going to save in airfare, you will pay for in the cost of the trip. So it all evens out in the end. I just kind of did a rough estimate of things that I see as prices. Now, is it worth the cost? I've had clients come back, and most of the clients are going to say that they feel like it's worth the money for what they received. You're going to get exceptional service, the ease of having everything included, and the enrichment talks as well as shore excursions more than make up for it when you think about all of those things that you're getting on board. Now, just because I like to play devil's advocate, here are some critiques that I've gotten in the past about American cruise lines, just so that you're aware of what you're like, if this is an issue for you, right? But I do want to say that these are all negligible if this is a trip that you were looking at doing. The first one is entertainment is pleasant, but not lavish, right? But we've discussed this. You're not going to be getting a lot of entertainment on these sort of ships because the location is the experience that you're experiencing. The ships, while new, aren't ultra luxurious. They're not going to have the chandeliers or the marble because that's not the American value point. It's going to be more, as we said, a boutique inn. Like, I'm very much imagining just like a cute little bed and breakfast in the South where everyone's like, welcome y'all. That is what they are envisioning for their brand. And so that is how they decorate their ships. And those are the two highest critiques that I get on it. And then, but now it's like, okay, well, how do we compare to others? So here's the thing. There isn't another cruise line in the United States that does as much as American Cruise Lines does. They used to have competition in American Queen, but during COVID, American Queen voyages went bankrupt and American Cruise Lines absorbed them, bought their ships, and now they're part of American Cruise Lines. So who is the competition to American Cruise Lines? So the biggest one that you've heard of and will probably surprise you is Viking. So Viking does the Mississippi and the Great Lakes. So American Cruise Lines has competition for the Mississippi and the Great Lakes when it comes to Viking. Another cruise line that you probably have never heard of is Uncruise. And that is going to be something, and they sail in Alaska and the Pacific Northwest. Those are the two major competitors. There's no one who does the Cods. There's no one who does the Hudson or Florida or in a lot of those other places. So if these are things that you want to see, American Cruise Lines is how you're going to see it. And they have that product and they know exactly what they're doing with it. So let's talk about some trip highlights from top rated features from my clients' favorites. The first is the intimate personal touch. There is very much a standout where cruise members know your names, and your preferences. The captain sometimes joins you for meals. The cruise director is always making sure that you have everything you need. And so they're very much focused on those high touch points. The rooms, huge, right? We've talked about this. Spacious staterooms, comfort on board. They're very roomy and comfortable. So that's perfect on that front. There's a daily cocktail hour and socialization, a complimentary cocktail hour and hors d'oeuvres each evening, enrichment and learning. You have the onboard activities and lectures, storytelling, and things of that nature. And then, so you have those sort of things to look forward to for this sort of destination. Now, okay, so that was kind of our overview of American Cruise Lines. And when you think of American river cruising before this presentation, I'm pretty sure the only thing you thought about was the Mississippi. And I'm here to tell you that American Cruise Lines does more than the Mississippi. They, as we've talked about, do almost the entire United States. And it is crazy because I didn't realize we had that many rivers that could hold a boat that big. Things you learn as you do these researches, right? Like I told you, some of these cruise lines, I've had to do deep research to get a full idea of everything that they do and how it can benefit you as a client. I have had clients go on these cruises. I have, as a Mississippi, the Snake as well. I want someone to go on the Cods. I'm just calling it the Cods. But it is a great experience if you know what you're getting into. It is not going to be flashy. It is going to be very much focused on the history, American culture, and things of that nature. So if this is something that you're interested in, I'd love to help you out. If you have any questions about this cruise line, let me know and we can kind of figure out the best way to set things up for you. And I would love if you would message me on Facebook, on Instagram, on our Facebook group, River Cruise. No, that's this podcast, River Cruising Masterclass. Cruising Better, tips and tricks for river expedition and small ships with Sydney. I'd love to know what you think or what river or part of the country in the United States that you would want to do a river cruise on. Anyways, thank you so much for listening in, and it has been so great to talk to you today. I promise this month you will have an episode every week. September has been a month. Anyways, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you later.